Coming up on UGTV, Board of Commission meeting of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Number 3, regarding lifting of the ban on pit bulls. You may sign up at either of the tables located by the chamber doors. If you've not signed up on your way in, please do so now. You will need to be signed in order to be able to speak at that moment. When the item is up for discussion, the clerk will call the names in order according to the sign-up sheets. The clerk will announce who's on deck, which means you'll be next to the podium. And when you come to the podium, right up here at the railing, please state your name and city of residency for our record. You will be given 2 minutes to state your comments. The clerk will announce after 1 minute and let you know that you have 1 minute remaining. I'll now call the meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Kane. Here. Markley. Commissioner Markley.
Did we lose Commissioner?
Here.
Roll call. Roll call for attendance.
I'm here.
Okay. Walters. Here. Philbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Murguia.
Here.
Johnson. Alvey.
Here. This evening, the invocation is being given by me. So please stand and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Please bow your heads. Father, we thank you for the gift of life. Tonight we ask you to send your Spirit out upon us, a spirit of truth, a spirit of peace, a spirit of care for one another. We offer you humbly all of our words and works, and we place them in your service for the good of all. And we offer you all these gifts in the name of your Son, our brother, Jesus Christ. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask the clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, we have 2 revisions under the Planning and Zoning non-consent agenda. Being held over is item A1, Special Use Permit SP 2018-54, R. Scott Beeler, revocation of a special use permit for the temporary use of land for storage of motor vehicles, including cars, SUVs, pickup trucks, and semi-truck trailers at 9700 Leavenworth Road. At the request of the permit holder, the mayor has agreed to set this matter over until the June 27, 2019 commission meeting. The second revision is the addition of item number 1 under miscellaneous, certificate of appropriateness, CA 2019-2, 8th Street Baptist Church, appealing the denial of certificate of appropriateness, CA 2019-2, by the Kansas City, Kansas Landmarks Commission for the demolition of an existing home at 809 Oakland Avenue. The Landmarks Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval to deny.
Thank you. Just a note, I approved the holdover for the first item because the permit holder was not able to be in attendance tonight, and so to give him an opportunity to present his position, we've agreed to set it aside until June 27. So tonight we have 2 distinct parts to our meeting. The planning and zoning portion will be handled first, followed by the regular commission meeting. I'll ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor CEO David Alvey, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Murguia, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson, District 4, who is unable to be here this evening, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, who is participating via conference call, Commissioner James Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before the commission has three options. 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. Or 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or others, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted on separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would, however, remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state their views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the Planning and Zoning agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda?
Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you. I've had contact proponents of A1, change of zone 3189.
Thank you. Commissioner Philbrook?
Yes, I've had contact with proponents and opponents of D1.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
I've been in contact with opponents of D1.
Thank you. I also have been in contact with opponents and proponents of D1. Any others? Commissioner Burrows?
I've had contacts proponents of D13, Mayor.
Thank you. I think that's it.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Under the change of zone applications, item 1, 3188, Michael Clofley, change of zone from M2 General Industrial District to C3 Commercial District to continue to operate a rental property at 300 and 302 Kansas Avenue. Recommended for approval. Item 2, 3189, Matt Watkins with Reese Commercial Real Estate. Request for change in previous approved stipulations for approved TND Traditional Neighborhood Design District to remove the no alcohol stipulation at 81 North Mill Street. Recommended for approval. Item 3, 3191, Andrea Wayashot with Atlas Surveyors. Change the zone from AG Agriculture County District to AG Agriculture City District at 2718 North 119th Street. Recommended for approval. Under special use permit applications, item 1, SP 2019-10, Jim Gorman with Kansas Gas Service, a division of One Gas. Renewal of a special use permit for 2 concrete pits and sampling of a variety of pipes for training purposes at 8535 Riverview Avenue. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2019-11, Heather L. Hawk with Rescue Me KC. Special use permit for an animal shelter for up to 20 adult dogs at 4229 Swartz Road. Recommended for denial. Item 3, SP 2019-29, Ryan Dory Waller with Villa Mullenday. Special use permit for an Airbnb at 1600 North 21st Street. Recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 4, SP 2019-36, Tyler G. Harnett, renewal of a special use permit for an Airbnb at 4521 Cambridge Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 5, SP 2019-39, Teresa Hernandez, renewal of a special use permit for a miniature horse at 840 Shawnee Road. Recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 6, SP 2019-40, Roberta Laird, special use permit for a commercial shop selling homemade items, gifts, antiques, etc. in the basement garage at 3704 North 99th Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 7, SP 2019-42, Dick Bryant with Richard T. Bryant and Associates, renewal of a special use permit for live entertainment in conjunction with an existing restaurant at 151 South 18th Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 8, SP 2019-46, Maria Elena Leal with M&M's Auto Sales and Detail. Special use permit for a new and used auto sales, auto repair, and auto detailing at 765 Shawnee Avenue. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 9, SP 2019-52, Michael D. Yeager, home occupation special use permit for mobile welding and repair, as well as general metal fabrication at 4855 Georgia Avenue. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 10, SP 2019-54, Ryan Dink with McEnany, Van Cleve, and Phillips, renewal of a special use permit for a dirt fill at 7751 South 73rd Street and 1500R South 73rd Street. Recommended for approval for 5 years. Item 11, SP 2019-55, Casey Bond, renewal of a home occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 35 South 7th Street Traffic Way. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 12, SP 2019-56, Brian Ruoff with 3F30 Architects, special use permit to operate a liquor store with packaged liquor sales at 3801 Leavenworth Road. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 13, SP 2019-57, Corey Hamilton with Strawberry Hill Bar, special use permit for a restaurant and drinking establishment at 403 North Fifth Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Under plan review applications, item 1, PR 2019-9, Charlie Sexton with HTK Architects. Preliminary and final plan review for a classroom addition to Delaware Ridge Elementary School at 1601 North 130th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 2, PR 2019-10, Russell Sage III with Security Bank of Kansas City. Preliminary and final plan review for renovation of the existing bank at 7364 State Avenue. Recommended for approval. Under miscellaneous application, item 1, consideration of amendments requiring a special use permit for small box variety stores. So it's consideration of certain amendments to section 27-30, Planning and Development of Kansas City, Kansas Code of Ordinances, generally concerning definitions, and a new provision to section 27-593, paren A, Planning and Development of Kansas City, Kansas Code of Ordinances, requiring a special use permit for small box variety stores. Recommended that this ordinance amendment be withdrawn and become part of the zoning ordinance rewrite. Under miscellaneous ordinances, item 1, an ordinance regarding vending machines and exterior sales and modifying the regulations thereof, amending sections 27-340 and 27-612, paren 6, to Chapter 27, Article 8 of the 2008 Code of Ordinances and Resolutions of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Recommended for approval. Item 2, an ordinance rezoning property located at approximately 3214 Strong Avenue by changing the same from its present zoning as CP1 Planned Limited Business District to CP3 Planned Commercial District. Recommended for approval. Item 3, an ordinance rezoning property located at 3201 Pomeroy Drive by changing its present zoning of R1 Single Family District to AG Agriculture District. Recommended for approval. And our last item on the consent agenda, item 4, is an ordinance vacating a utility easement at 5443 North 101st Terrace. Recommended for approval.
Thank you. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Move to approve all items as
Commissioner-
submitted.
Go ahead. Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you. I wanted to set aside, just for clarification on a few points, the miscellaneous application concerning the small box variety stores. That was it, Mayor. Thank you.
No, D1 is set aside. Any others? Seeing
Move to
none, we
approve all remaining items as submitted.
have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
No.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Murguia.
Aye.
Thank you. That takes us to set aside item D1, consideration of amendments requiring a special use permit for small box variety stores. Commissioner Townsend, did you have some questions for our staff?
Right, thank you. It wasn't clear to me from this. I just wanted to be sure I understood where, if we followed this recommendation, where this would put us. Currently, we do not have a small box ordinance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so the recommendation is to send the amendment, what had been worked on thus far, to roll that into the process under which we're going now to rewrite the zoning code, correct?
Not necessarily that specific amendment, but a version of it that we're able to work out over that
Okay.
period of time.
But to take that issue up as part of the rewrite of the zoning
Correct.
code. At this point, forgive me, I just do not recall, because I know we had several weeks, maybe a month ago, and a best estimate as to when that process, i.e. the zoning ordinance rewrite, would conclude. Just your best estimate.
Right.
Well,
I think that it would be before you in September. That will probably be largely due to the commission itself and how comfortable you are with the study sessions we're able to have in advance of that, and how much time you want to spend with the code before we get to that adoption process. But my best guess would be the September or October Board of Commissioners meeting.
Okay. In the interim, presuming that we address the issues with the small box variety stores as part of the zoning ordinance rewrite, what would be the procedure if someone, say tomorrow, wanted to build an entirely new store that fits the definitions we know, and they've been referred to as dollar stores, not to be demeaning, small box stores? What would be the process for the Planning and Zoning Commission and/or us to review such an application? And would every application like that come before Planning and Zoning?
Excuse me. The only way one of those applications would come before Planning and Zoning Commission or this body would be if they were rezoning a new location and you saw the zoning case. If it was already zoned C1 or C2 or C3 and an existing building, they would just obtain a business license.
That would be the current situation if this goes on.
Correct.
Okay. All right, well, I have my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of D1?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my name's Pete Peterson. I'm an attorney. Address is 748 Ann, Kansas City, Kansas 66101. I'm here in favor of the withdrawal of this at the present time, and in favor of the Planning Commission's unanimous vote that was voted on at the Planning Commission. I believe that would be the fair and just thing at this point in time. I'd be glad to answer any questions whatsoever. I've appeared in front of you before on this matter, and perhaps we can have some input as this goes along.
Okay, seeing there are no questions, is there anyone else present who would like to speak in support? Seeing none, anyone who would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Rob, do you have any closing comments?
No, Mr. Mayor. I think that will give us time to look at a smaller area or other provisions that might be more palatable that would be citywide. 1 month was really just too short of a time to even get a legal description. If we could have developed an area to get the legal description and everything ready to go for a smaller area or an overlay zone. So I think this will give us time to do that.
Right. Any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Commissioner Townsend.
Okay, just one last question to clarify. So it is possible that if a vendor who wants to bring forward a small box type store, a dollar store that we're accustomed to seeing, could do so without coming through planning and zoning and without coming through this commission?
Currently, that is correct.
Okay, just for the record, that does give me pause that there would be no mechanism at all for the Planning Commission or this body to look at whether or not these new types of dollar stores or small box variety stores. I voted several years ago for the ordinance. I am not opposed to having commerce come to our city, but particularly in District 1 and some of the others, it was the proliferation of them so close together. They gave us pause, but I wanted to ask these questions so it was clear what would happen now that we don't have an ordinance and where this would go. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the item as submitted by the Planning Commission.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
No.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Regia.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-1.
Thank you. As the clerk announced, SP 2018-54 will not be heard this evening. It'll be held over to the June 27th meeting. We will now hear the item that was added to tonight's agenda, which is consideration of an appeal by the 8th Street Baptist Church regarding denial of their certificate of appropriateness, number CA-2019-2, by the Kansas City, Kansas Landmarks Commission for the demolition of an existing home at 809 Oakland Avenue. The Landmarks Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval for the denial. I'd ask staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a case, this is the single-family bungalow-style home adjacent to the church, which is directly across the street from the Sumner High School. It's one of the few remaining structures that gives any context to the historic landmark that Sumner High School is and is designated nationally to be. And the Landmarks Commission felt it was worthy of saving that structure rather than demolishing it. And it comes to you tonight with the Landmark Commission recommendation not to allow it to be demolished. And I would note that there are some members of the Landmarks Commission present this evening if you have questions.
All right. I'd ask the applicant to come forward to make comments. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, Harold Simmons, 1712 North 80th Street, Kansas City, Kansas, 66112. We represent the 8th Street Baptist Church. The house in question was the parsonage of the 8th Street Baptist Church. It's been vacant for over 10 years. The pastor died in 1985. His widow stayed there until a little over 10 years ago. The house is totally destructive on the inside. We had to run people out because we've had people break in, homeless. About 4 months ago, someone came and tore out all of the pipes in the basement and left the water running, and also they tore out the gas pipes. So we had to call in the gas service company and the BPU to get everything cut off from the outside. The house currently is right next door to the church. We're no longer in the housing business, and we really don't want anyone living next door to the church. We have a contract with the school board that when we get the house demolished, the school board has a contract with us to use our parking lot. The school board is going to come in and pave it and put more parking spaces there. The house literally is not for any rehab of any kind.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone present who would like to speak in favor of the certificate of appropriateness. If so, please step to the podium at this time. Give us your name and address for the record. Okay. Seeing none, is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Anyone present in opposition? All right, seeing none. Ask the commissioners, any questions or comments? And we'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you, Mayor. I had spoken briefly to Commissioner Johnson before he was called away from this meeting. It was his understanding that at the Landmarks Commission meeting, the minister and representative from the church had been unable to be present to explain their position on why they were hoping to be able to demolish the house. And so with that, I would ask this body to consider returning this item to the Landmarks Commission so that they can have that discussion. So I would make a motion, if I could, to return this item to the Landmarks Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Murguia.
Thanks. I just have a process question. So if you could clarify for me, Administrator Bach, is this house owned by the church?
Have to ask, I believe it is.
Yes, it's owned by the church.
And is the church requesting permission to demo it, or are they asking the government to demo it?
They're asking to demo it themselves.
Okay, and they're asking us because it's, is it because it's on the historic registry and they have to get local government permission before they do that?
Yes, it went before the Landmarks Commission, who denied their request to demolish the property. You, as a governing body, can override that.
Oh, okay.
All right, so any other questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, we have a motion to send this back to the Landmarks Commission and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane. Aye. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Aye. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
McGeeh.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We'll now move to the regular portion of our agenda. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you, Mayor. The items that are appearing on the regular consent agenda were the items that came forward at the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee on May 20th, and all of these items found their way onto this consent agenda because they had a unanimous vote of that standing committee. That being said, from what we can see by tonight's audience, item 3 has brought out a number of folks from the public, and we've already acknowledged by having them sign in that they would like to speak. So with that being said, I'd like to pull item number 3, the ordinance repealing the ban on pit bulls.
Thank you. Mr. Townsend, did you have? No? Okay. Any other items?
Move to approve all remaining items on the regular consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Aye. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
McGeeh.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. That takes us to the set-aside item, item number 3, repealing the ban on pit bull dogs. I'll recognize Commissioner Bynum, who chairs the standing committee that heard this item on May 20th. Commissioner Bynum, along with Commissioner Philbrook, are sponsoring this ordinance. Commissioner Bynum.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. This item did appear again at the standing committee level on May 20th. We heard from folks in support of repeal, and we also had questions at that time for our Animal Services Director, Jennifer Stewart, who's also here tonight. And at that point, we did unanimously vote to bring this repeal forward. That being said, tonight's audience shows us that we have folks here, I believe, both for and against repealing this ordinance. I would say, by way of opening remarks, that I feel like we're at a point in our work with animal services that we've not attained in not only just a few years, but possibly decades. And that point is that, with all due respect to anyone who ever tried to run this department or do this incredibly difficult job of being an animal services officer, we now have an animal services director who is completely committed to doing the work that we have given her to do in this community. This is a building that is not adequate. This is a department that is not adequately resourced. we do bear that responsibility. However, I will tell you that, as I have told the numerous community groups that I've spoken to over the last few months, if you know anyone that would like to be an animal services officer, you can go on our website on almost any given day and see an opening for that job. So we would certainly encourage anyone who would like to have that job to apply for that job. I will tell you, it is not an easy job, but we do need more of them. And that shortage makes efficient work within this department more difficult. What we have now in our community is an opportunity to work strategically, not by just putting Band-Aids on things, sometimes Band-Aids that heal nothing. What we have in front of us is an opportunity to be strategic. Prior to my arrival on this commission, and ever since my arrival on this commission, what I have watched our mayor and fellow commissioners do is work and think strategically around the use of our many scarce and precious resources. So I view this opportunity as one piece of a puzzle toward being more strategic around the use of our limited animal services dollars, which is why we did ask Jennifer Stewart, our director, to be here in case we had questions for her. But not only that, we have, for the first time that I know of, and I've been questioning the work of this department long before I ever made my way onto this commission, and I'm sure everyone here did as well, because we all know that this is a constant and continuous complaint that we hear in our community, that the failings of this department. And for many, many years, I had no concept of how to change that, how to make it better, how to make anything better for the very difficult work that our animal services folks were trying to do for us. But alongside us came a committed group of volunteers, people who came together from animal rescue groups and formed a coalition because they recognized that they were spending their resources to help us do our work. And they realized that if they came together as a coalition and worked alongside us, that we could all do so much better for this community than we had been doing for, again, I dare say, decades. And that is what has been happening for the last several years in this community. We have a coalition of volunteers, I will say it again, using their own nonprofit resources that do not total a few $1,000s, but rather total tens of thousands, possibly, I'm not sure, more than $100,000 of their money coming alongside our animal services department to problem solve, to get out in our streets and do real pet owner education, to provide low-cost spay and neuter. And I could go on about the work these folks are doing for and with us in Wyandotte County. And if you ever have the chance to have them tell you what they're doing, you will not believe it. It is remarkable. And so that is why I have come to the conclusion that we can repeal this pit bull ban. We've already put the dangerous dog ordinance in place. We did that in 2014. We can do better by this community. I'll leave it for the public and their comments and the questions that the commissioners might have. That's the opening statement that I want to make. It's the first opportunity that I know of in our community in a very long time that we have an extraordinary window of opportunity through those who've stepped alongside us to help us. And so with that, I would hand it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we will now take comments from the audience, and normally we would ask for those in support to come forward first and then those in opposition, but since everyone has signed up and we have the order in which you signed up, we're going to follow that order. And so I'd ask the clerk to please read those names off, and the second name is the person who will be up next. And we are getting 2 minutes, and at 1 minute, she will just make a note that, to you, that you got 1 minute left. Thank you.
And I will note, we have 20 people who have signed up to speak. So we can have Darren Dillard to the podium and Joseph Niebert on deck.
I'm Darren Dillard. I've lived in District 5. I've lived in Kansas City, Kansas for roughly 20 years. I've also wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to give this chance to speak tonight on behalf of the repealing BSL. I've owned and interacted with dogs my entire life, never having a problem with breed specifics. I strongly believe that this time repealing the BSL in our city is important. Pit bull dogs are just like any other dog and should be treated as an individual. We shouldn't judge people by their looks, so why is it okay to judge a dog? It's impossible to predict if a dog is dangerous based on its looks, not its behavior. And any breed of dog can be dangerous. We need to focus on dangerous dogs in our city, not just pit bulls. KCK has a dangerous dogs ordinance that is much more effective at addressing the behavior of all breeds of dogs, regardless of how it looks. It does not make sense for the UG to have both ordinances. The dangerous dog ordinance is much easier to enforce, while the breed ban is expensive and does not work. As a resident of Kansas City, Kansas, taxpayer and dog lover, I'm asking the commissioners tonight to repeal the BSL. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll have Joseph Niebert to the podium and Corey Williams on deck.
Hi, you guys. I'm Joseph Nibert. I live here in Kansas City, Kansas, District 8. I'm here to speak on the behalf of repealing the BSL here in Kansas City, Kansas. Protecting the people of Kansas City from dangerous dogs should be and always should be our #1 priority, which is why our public safety laws should focus on the behavior of the dog, of the individual dog and the owner, and not obtain misconceptions about certain dog breeds. I believe it is important to support ordinances that emphasize public safety, public responsibility, and individual acceptability, which repealing ordinances
1 minute remaining.
that are barriers to a safer community. In addition, overcrowding in KCK animal service faculty facilities caused by breed ban makes it difficult for our officers to do their job properly. I'd like to thank you guys for listening tonight and for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Corey Williams to the podium and Kate Fields, okay, on deck.
Hi, my name is Corey Williams. I'm a resident and homeowner taxpayer in District 2. I want to thank all of you, Mayor, for coming out this evening and listening to us. I know that this is an emotional issue for a lot of people, but for me, it's a taxpayer issue. I know that Animal Services spends roughly $250,000 a year just to house and deal with pit bulls, and from what I understand, that's 1/4 of their budget. I think that the resources that they have, not only monetarily, but space, could be better used. I think that we should join our cities of Bonner Springs and Edwardsville, which are also in the unified government, and repeal the breed-specific legislation. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So Kate Fields to the podium, Katie Thurbon on deck.
Hi, folks. Kate Fields. I represent the Humane Society of Greater Kansas City, 5445 Parallel, KCK 66104. thank you for this opportunity. I want to come to you with my background with how this affects the Humane Society. We are the veterinarian of license for KCK Animal Services. We're down there 5 to 6 days a week, taking care of all the dogs and cats that are there. And any hurt, abused, neglected animals that come through our place, if they're broken, if they're hurt, if they're shot by a gun, then we take those dogs and those cats and we fix them on our dime, and then we find homes for them. Currently, right now in our shelter, we have 45% pit mixes. The problem with that is we can't adopt them out into our own community where they came from. What this does is also cut our ties with being able to help other people surrender their dogs and their cats to us. 10 years ago, we did the Ray of Hope program to be able to take animals out of KCK into Olathe to adopt at the PetSmart in Olathe because we couldn't adopt pit bulls in our own community. I think that's a shame. This is an archaic and outdated rule, and it needs to change. I thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Katie Thurbin to the podium. Jimmy L. Banks on deck.
Good evening. My name is Katie Thurbin. I'm a resident of District 6, 5121 Melody Lane. I'd like to start by thanking you all for your time and consideration of this issue. I also work at an animal shelter. I work at Great Plains SPCA just over the border of Kansas City, Kansas and Merriam, Kansas. Every day I get to see the passion that people have for the pets in their lives, for the homeless pets that are in my shelter. And as I think you'll see and have seen here tonight, BSL legislation is no different. Emotions run high and opinions run very deep. However, tonight I strongly urge you to set emotions and opinions aside and consider the facts. And the fact is that this law that we are considering tonight is unenforceable. As you heard Commissioner Bynum say, and as I'm sure if you ask her, you will hear Jennifer, the Animal Services Director, say, our animal control officers, we do not have the resources to pick up every bully breed that lives in Kansas City, Kansas. If we did, we would not have the space to hold them.
1 minute.
Thank you. So I hope that you all have been to our KCK holding facility. I know when I have been there, there has seldomly been any kennels open. We just don't have the resources to enforce this law. So again, tonight I would urge you to consider the facts. And I do not believe it makes sense to have a law that is unenforceable. It does make sense to have a law that keeps our citizens safe, and that is what we have in the Dangerous Dog Ordinance from 2014. The breed-specific legislation does not work, and it is not needed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jimmy L. Banks to the podium. Marlon Neville's on deck.
Thank you. And thank you to the commission for allowing me this opportunity to speak. And I have a flyer which I'm assuming all the commissioners have received, and there are other copies for those who might want one. Tonight, our Board of Commissioners will consider the repeal of the ban on pit bulls. The ban was originally imposed in 1990, and intervening efforts for repeal have all been defeated. The most recent appeal effort was proposed following the death of Ms. Jimmy Mae McConnell. On July 27, 2006, this is facts. Ms. McConnell, a 71-year-old senior citizen, mother, grandmother, and beloved member of the community, was attacked by a pair of dogs, one being a pit bull, while gardening in her backyard. She had complained about these dogs on several occasions, fearing that one day they would attack. And she told her children that that was her fear, that one day these dogs would attack. And on July 27, 2006, they did. They jumped her fence. They mauled her. Emergency assistance people were called. When they got there, the pit bull was still engaged in tearing apart her body. The owner of the dogs was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in prison. When they came upon her, they had to use an axe and a pole to remove the dog. In other occasions where there's been graphic depictions of pit bull attacks, the only way to subdue them is to shoot them. And then on occasions, because of the pounds per square inch strength of their jaws, they have often been removed by using the jaws of life, whatever they call those things that extricate people from serious accidents.
Reverend Banks, so you've exceeded. Would there be a motion to extend the time for Reverend Banks?
Move to allow Mr. Banks to continue.
Second.
You have 2 more minutes, sir.
Thank you. The mother of the dog's owner who was convicted stated that in her view, the government is negligent for failing to enforce its rule. Contrary to the current opinions of pit bull lovers and protectors of dogs in general, the pit bull is no less vicious, aggressive, and a potential killing machine than it was in the past. The breed's genesis is traced back to ancient times, to the Molossian family of dogs, which included the pit bull and the mastiff. Breeds well known for their fierceness and ability to intimidate and dominate, not just other dogs, but also humans. So we're not talking about a dog bite. We're talking about a dog who attacks with the ability to kill. Kill children, kill adults, kill members of the family that raised and nurtured them
1 minute.
spontaneously. And so from a strategic standpoint, I don't understand how the addition of personnel will help deal with a situation that's been banned for 1999, and we still see a large number of pit bull owners who have come to the podium to speak, and they own dogs that are prohibited in Wyandotte County or in Kansas City, Kansas. The data that I have here speaks for itself. Out of all the dog fatalities, pit bulls represent 66 to 70% of the 471 deaths that have been caused by dog bite fatalities between the period of 2005, and there's a misprint, 2005 and 2018. In 2018, 39 dog bite fatalities occurred.
Your time is up, sir.
Accounted for 70% of these deaths. I'm emotional, but I'm also practical. And I look to this body to be fair in developing an environment here where we're all safe. I'm not sure that we would ever put on the billboards coming into Kansas City, this is the city that welcomes pit bulls. Thank you for hearing me.
Marlon Nevels to the podium. Lark Brown on deck.
Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Marlon Nevels, and I come in opposition to the pit bull being allowed to be in our community. They are very intuitive dogs, and dogs, as a rule, understand when they're loved and when they are feared. And these dogs, they can and have preyed on people, and I think that we should retain the ban on pit bulls. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lark Brown on North 40th Street. Okay. We'll have Cheryl Buell to the podium. Christina Acosta on deck.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. My name is Cheryl Buell. I am a resident of KCK in District 1 and homeowner. And I wanted to share with you firsthand knowledge I have of how the pit bull ban is not contributing to public safety, and it's costing taxpayers a ton of money. Back in 2007, Kansas City, Kansas, Animal Control vigorously enforced the ban and confiscated many pet owners' dogs The owners were facing destruction of their dogs, fines, and jail time. A group of us citizens and Kansas City dog advocates hired an attorney, helped these dog owners in court. In dozens of cases heard, the average court case dragged on for 9 months. Each time we went to court, Kansas City, Kansas animal control officers were not in the field but in court, often 2 to 4 officers. In the cases, testimony was never about the behavior of the dogs, because none of the dogs had exhibited dangerous behavior, but we were simply debating the dogs' looks. We won every one of these cases. The city could never prove the dogs were 51% or more pit bull. They lost every case. I wanted to let you know that I have been studying, ever since I lived here, what's been going on with animal control laws. It's been of great interest to me. The Northeast Neighborhood Group met back in former Mayor Carol Marinovich's days. That's how long this has been going on. They approached her and wanted to meet about dangerous dogs, biting dogs. They didn't say pit bulls, dangerous dogs. And here we are again. We're still debating the same old issues. Emotional issues are coming into play. We're not using logic. We're not using sanity. The laws are here. Please, please, I implore you to repeal the pit bull ban, allow our officers to use their resources to vigorously enforce the dangerous dog laws we have on the books. Let's go after the bad dog owners, get their bad dogs out of this community, if need be, euthanized, and let's confiscate and go after the dog owners that are causing the
2
problems. It won't be solved unless we go after all breeds of dogs. We can debate this until ad infinitum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Christina Acosta to the podium, Susan Kaufman on deck.
Hello, my name is Christina Acosta, and I live at 618 Vale Street in District 3, Commissioner Ann McGee's district. My background with animals, particularly this breed, includes growing up volunteering at local animal shelters, working at a vet hospital, and watching several dogs when they had nowhere to go. I could go on and on about how wonderful this breed is, but particularly a problem in my area that me and my neighbors and others feel is lack of support from the city. There's a problem when we call several times for dogs at large, only to have a note stuck on our door the next day. A few days pass, and sadly, one of those incidents, one of my animals was mauled, not by a pit bull, but by dangerous dogs at large. This could have been prevented had animal control had more resources given to them. I admit it's gotten better since the dangerous dog ordinance, but we can't be at our best without the resources. Fast forward to now, I find, and others find, that animal control is spending 1 to 2 hours knocking on responsible owners' doors because their neighbors said they have a pit bull.
1 minute.
Or a dog 30 to 55 pounds with a blockhead that looks like a pit bull. That's time from the city. Our money, approximately $246,000, goes into ban enforcement, which we already know is not effective. So today, I am asking for you to repeal the BSL ban and put our taxpayers' dollars and time towards supporting the dangerous dog ordinance and holding owners, not the breed, accountable. Thank you for your time, commissioners.
Thank you.
Susan Kaufman to the podium, Tracy Smith on deck.
Hi, my name is Susan Kaufman, and I appreciate your time and the opportunity to speak in favor of repealing the ban on pit bulls. My husband and I own a business in Commissioner Kane's district, and I work at the University of Kansas Health System as well. I'm the program administrator for the KCK Pet Help Program, which Commissioner Bynum was speaking about in her remarks. We started this program almost 3 years ago by joining together a group of 6 different organizations that include animal shelters, rescues, veterinarians, and outreach programs. And our one mission is to work together with animal services side by side to help make KCK a better place for people and pets. We are dedicated to reducing the homeless animal population in KCK, as well as helping to make vet care more affordable for its residents. We know that the residents of KCK love their pets, and sometimes they just need extra resources to take good care of them. So we're the people out there in the neighborhoods in the cold and the rain and the extreme heat. We're out catching dogs. We're out helping to trap cats. And so in the past several years, we've raised $239,000 since January of 2018 in grants to help fund free spay-neuter services for owned pets, as well as our community cat program where we catch, spay and neuter, and release feral cats. Our volunteers have spent about 10,000 hours trapping cats and we're working with colony caretakers who care for them. We've had more than 8 colony caretaker open houses, and we provide an average of 600 pounds of dry cat food and wet cat food for free. We built and distributed hundreds of feral cat shelters, and I asked
2 minutes.
May I have?
I'd entertain a motion to extend.
Motion for 2 minutes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The outreach teams that we work with from both the Rescue Project and the Great Plains Hero Team, they spend about an average of 24 hours a week in KCK. And since January of 2018, that's almost 2,800 hours spent out in the field doing outreach and education with dog owners. They've also distributed more than $100,000 in supplies, including dog houses, cable tie-outs, food and water bowls, straw, and more. So the KCK Pet Help Program opposes breed-specific legislation because it doesn't work. It's time to trust Wyandotte County and KCK pet owners and believe that they can make the best decisions for their families. Breed-based restrictions do nothing to address the problems, but rather take away beloved dogs away from the families who want them. Trying to address problems in a community by targeting dogs by breed is a poor strategy, and it does not improve public safety or animal welfare.
1 minute.
In fact, no jurisdiction, state or local, with BSL has ever been able to demonstrate an increase in public safety or a significant reduction in population of banned dog breeds. Breed-based laws are costly and difficult to enforce, and they already overburden, and they contribute to overburdening and under-resourcing animal services. We really support having a safe community. We would not be advocating for this repeal. We think that that dangerous dog ordinance is excellent, and we need the resources to reinforce it. And so for that reason, we ask you to please support repealing the breed ban.
Thank you.
Tracy Smith to the podium. Marty Nichols on deck.
Hello, Commission. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Tracy Smith, and I live in District 4. I've been a resident of KCK for over 30 years. My wife and I are passionate about dogs, and we believe the BSL should be repealed in KCK. Labeling a dog a pit bull is subjective, and many times dogs are misidentified as pit bulls when they are not. When this happens, dog owners rack up thousands of dollars in legal bills, fighting citations, and possibly having to give up their dogs. This causes hardship for many people who cannot afford it. Many times it results in having to make a hard decision to not fight an incorrect identification and abandon their pet at the shelter. The breed ban is also bad for relationships among neighbors sometimes. It is not unheard of that one neighbor has a disagreement with another and out of spite would call animal control services, even if the dog is not a pit bull. Then animal services officers have to spend valuable time investigating the complaint when his or her time would be better spent in the field picking up stray animals or enforcing the dangerous dog ordinance. In conclusion, it is time to repeal the pit bull ban in KCK and stop wasting valuable resources on an ordinance that not only does not work, it causes harm and hardship in our community. We are all better off if we focus on enforcing the dangerous dog ordinance instead. Thank you for your time.
Marty Nichols to the podium. Anne Marie Wilson on deck. Ms. Nichols? Okay. Anne Marie Wilson to the podium. Angel Wilson on deck.
Pardon me. My name is Anne Marie Wilson. I live at 2500 South 47th Drive, Kansas City, Kansas. I have for the last 26 years. I've spent my entire life in KCK. Recently, I've become aware of the pit bull ban because an officer came to my door to tell me that she had a report of a pit bull residing at this residence. And I had to tell her, well, I do own one. I acquired this dog when my ex-husband was killed in a workplace accident in January. My 3 children, his children, one of the few things they wanted was his dog because that dog was so attached to him. And so, I couldn't tell my children no. So we have this dog. And I explained that to the officer, and she felt horrible that she was having to give me a ticket because she understood, that the dog probably wasn't, and here she was out there doing this. I just want you to know, I absolutely support the dangerous dog. I want that to stay on. I just don't want it to be sectioned off for breed. I think that's just uncalled for. I've grown up in this community, and I'm considering selling my house now because I can't give this dog away. That's pretty sad, but true. And I know that's no big whim for anybody that one person is going to move out of the city, but I just want you to know that's where it is. That's where it stands for me. I can't do this to my children. They've lost their father. I can't take this dog away from them. And Angel Wilson is my daughter, and I don't believe she's going to be able to come up. So you can go on to the next person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa McConnell to the podium. James D. McConnell on deck.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commissioner. My name is Theresa McConnell, and I am a part of the McConnell family. Jimmy May McConnell was the victim that was killed in July of 2006. As we were listening, one thing that I think that we need to see and understand is that God created everything for a specific purpose. And the pit bull was designed to handle in the fields with animals and not necessarily with people. And as I was writing a letter and putting it together to bring before the commissioners, I checked and happened to look online, and on that very day, a lady in Florida had been attacked by 3 pit bulls. The dogs were trained. It's been in the family for a long time. However, for some odd reason, its innate nature took part, and that woman was attacked. So at any given time, regardless of how much one has trained or has spent time, no one knows that day nor that hour when that dog is going to attack. And so I just ask that we be mindful, amen, of the very fact of creation, what the dog was actually created for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
James D. McConnell to the podium. Teresa Hernandez on deck.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and to the commissioners. Good evening. My name is James McConnell. I reside at 3209 North 109th Place in Kansas City, Kansas. That would be District 5. Mike Kane is my commissioner. I stand before you tonight. Mrs. McConnell, Jimmy May, was my sister-in-law. And I want to make a point that this is not tonight. Tonight, it really is not about Mrs. McConnell. She's in heaven now. This unfortunate incident happened. We are here in support of upholding the ban because of, in fear that other individuals will, in fact, have the same kind of a situation that happened to them as it happened to my sister-in-law. So we're here not to keep bringing this up for her, because she's gone. But
1 minute.
other children are, because of stray dogs that are out there, children are terrified in getting off of buses, school buses, because of stray dogs, and many of those stray dogs are pit bulls. And I grew up in the house. I grew up in the home with my sister-in-law. When my dad passed away when I was in the 8th grade, I lived with them for 6 years until I went away to college. And I was, when the district attorney allowed the family members, the close family members, to see pictures, it was horrific. The fact that the pit bull went in there and it was just terrible. And we are here for the purpose of wanting to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen with other individuals, children. I
2 minutes is up,
really,
sir.
I really feel very, very sorry for the lady that spoke a few minutes ago. But those pit bulls can turn in an instant on those children. So if it's a situation of economics, there's got to be another something that can be done. Please, in fact, do not repeal the pit bull ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Teresa Hernandez to the podium. Sydney Drysdale on deck. You're Sydney? Come on up. Then we'll have Joe Acosta on deck.
My name is Sydney Drysdale, and I'm a representative from District 7. I reside at 8121 Ella Avenue. I'd first like to say thank you for hearing us out, and thank you for your consideration of the breed ban repeal and your time, especially Commissioner Jim Walters from my district. My husband and I recently bought our first home in Kansas City, Kansas on Ella Avenue. We love the diversity and vibrancy our community fosters, but we almost decided against moving here because of the breed ban. We ultimately made the choice to move here because this is a place we care about and we saw a commitment to change. I'd like to do my own part in cultivating change by being a part of this great movement to repeal the breed ban. As a mother of 2 rescued hounds from the Rescue Project and Kansas City Pet Project, you may be wondering what my proverbial dog is in this fight. As a dog foster parent for Kansas City Pet Project and the Rescue Project, I've seen firsthand the impact of limited resources in the animal welfare community of Kansas City, Kansas. With the dangerous dog ordinance in place, a breed ban is discriminatory, difficult to enforce, and ineffective.
1 minute.
While utilizing resources that could be more effectively used to care for homeless and stray animals, as well as being used to enforce the dangerous dog ordinance. Repealing the breed ban would allow for more available space in Kansas City rescues and shelters while keeping beloved and well cared for pets in their home. Ultimately, this is about more than pit bulls and dangerous dog ordinances. This is about our chance to be a more inclusive and forward-thinking, safe community that encourages responsible pet ownership. And young professionals like myself to join in, to move into Kansas City, and to really make a change. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Joe Acosta.
I want to thank all the members of the public present today to bring your thoughts and feelings to us, and we are now closed the public hearing. I would ask if the commissioners have any comments or questions. Commissioner Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we often talk about these decisions are hard to make, and that instead of 2 sides to the story, on this one here, there's probably 8 sides to the story. But my personal experience with pit bulls My daughter had them in college. She had 2. She brought them home on weekends, and they were just as good as any other dog. They were never out of line. They never did anything wrong. They were there to protect her. I wasn't for the ban in 2006. I've never been for the ban. And we're fighting as a community. And we're fighting because somebody looks this way or somebody looks that way. The bottom line, it's not the dog itself, it's the person that has the dog. Don't clap. And this vote isn't good for either side, but I'm going to make my vote based on my past experience. And she had those dogs for 4 years, and when she came back from college, she had to give them up because she moved back to Wyandotte County. So there was no good end to that. And like I said, I was for I didn't want the ban in the first place, and I don't want it now.
Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I agree with Commissioner Kane. This is a difficult decision, and we're talking about emotion. We're also talking about facts. So I want to thank everyone who came out tonight, no matter what side of the issue you find yourself, because it shows that you are participating in the deliberative process. And I, as a commissioner, appreciate that. Your voices and your appearance is vital to all of us here who have to make those decisions. Having said that, as commissioner in District 1, the ban was in place when I came into office. I did support the continuation of the ban 4 years ago, and I'll continue to support it tonight for a few of the following reasons. There are many, but here are a few. And basically, I see it as an essential tool, not flawless, but still effective in helping to regulate and maintain public health and safety of our citizens. We've heard several owners tonight talk about how lovable their dogs are, but we're talking about situations where these dogs may be in the community, not just with their owners. And you can read any number of articles that talk about this breed, as some others might do, but this breed particularly, even turning on the owners. Thank heaven for those who've not had this experience. However, there's documentation out there to show that that can happen. In terms of the ineffectiveness of it, I think this discussion raises a good point that I think is better addressed by us as a budget issue. I've heard Commissioner McKiernan say any number of times on various subjects, maybe we need to have, and I'm paraphrasing, Commissioner, I'm not holding you to this, the rubber hit the road in money. It does sound like there are a lot of people who have volunteered their time to help us in Wyandotte County with the animal situation. Maybe it's time to give more money in our budget to those particular situations, but I think it would be a mistake to lift the ban. That is still a public safety issue that can work in concert with any other different type of hazardous dog, but because of the unique particularities of that species, I do believe this ban-specific legislation should stay in effect. I don't know if all of us have read. I know there was any number of letters, emails sent to the commission. I looked at some. Again, I'm thankful for those who chose to give their voice to both sides. But one in particular caught my attention, and I'd be happy to share it with anyone who contacts me. And it was an email from a doctor in Wisconsin who performs surgery, pediatrics particularly, and has come across any number of children who have been mauled, children and others, by pit bulls. She's also a member of the Council on Injury, Violence, and Poison Prevention. And she talks about the particular level of destruction that when this type of breed bites, it's like unlike any other, and talks about the fatality according to her article. Pit bulls and other dangerous dogs have become an epidemic, her words, public safety issue over the last 10 to 20 years, and it's only getting worse. According to this doctor, pit bulls killed 26 out of 36 people killed by dogs in 2018 in the United States. Even in this article, it says that our military, U.S. military, who's the best in the world, does not allow this breed on U.S. military bases. We want to continue to look at this, I do, as a public safety issue and one tool. It may not be flawless in the way we've executed it. Again, I think there's another way to look at this, and that's probably coming off some dollars to help our people who are doing the best job they can with this. But that's another issue. That should be the economic burden put on us. And speaking of economics, I talked with my insurance carrier 4 years ago, and that position has not changed. We don't want another situation like a Mrs. McConnell. I think a lot of us want to go to heaven, but I'll admit I'm not particularly in a hurry to get there. And we don't want to put the public at risk when I don't believe we need to with this ban, even if we have a lot more of these mixes or the breeds housed currently. I think that's still preferable to putting the public at a higher level of risk than other dogs. Are these the only ones that are dangerous? No. But my insurance company as a homeowner would not cover me if I had this particular breed. And unfortunately, it escaped, or didn't escape, even at home. Mauled, bit, killed, injured someone. And to me, that's not satisfactory because it shifts the burden of government. And what we're trying to do here is keep people safe and be fair to their particular likes. But I believe that if we lift the ban, it would incorrectly shift an economic burden that we haven't talked about really tonight to those people who are the victims of a dog attack by a pit bull. I did see an article, this is when I looked up, just to find out what the general cost of a dog bite is, and this was an article published by Insurance Info Institute and State Farm. It was called The Cost of a Dog Bite. This was published back in April 17th of 16. And it said that dog bites and other dog-related injuries accounted for more than 1/3 of all homeowner liability claims paid out in 2016. That's 3 years ago. The total amount was $600 million. The average cost of a claim nationally at that time, 3 years ago, was $33,230. This was not breed specific, but just to give you some point of reference for what an insurance carrier paid out for any dog bite. Certainly the nature of the bites described in some of the literature we've gotten from a pit bull is more serious, more grievous if you survive it. Therefore, you could expect that the average cost would be higher than that. Let me share a personal experience I had just recently within the past 3 weeks. Driving home and going to park my car, out of nowhere in the alley adjacent to my house, this pit bull lunges out of nowhere. It's on a chain. My window was rolled down. I hastily rolled it up on the passenger side and then proceeded to call my neighbor, who good people, and asked them, was that their dog? They said it was. I didn't ask them if they knew, but I said, you know, those breeds are not allowed in Wyandotte County. You have to remove the dog, and they complied. I'd hate to think what would have happened had that dog, who'd never seen me before, or I'd never had any contact before, gotten loose on kids that play in that alley all the time. According again to the article that Dr. Marusinek, Marusinec, forgive me, doctor, if I'm mispronouncing it. But in that article, it mentions that pit bull terriers are relatively more likely to attack an unknown individual 31% of the time more than another breed, and without provocation 48% of the time. So I know it's emotional for all of us here, but those are what the numbers indicate. And I would just have to exercise what I was taught in law school, to err on the side of caution. If we repeal the ban, there's potentially more harm to the public at large than if we leave it in place. I know it is not flawless, but that means we as a commission, I think, need to look at other ways to give our animal control people more financial help. That would be the way I would go without shifting the burden and increasing the probability, which I believe is unacceptable, for safety. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Philbrook?
I just wanted to wait until I got to hear from most everybody out there and up on the dais. Of course, it's been stated that I am supporting the repeal of the breed-specific ban, and that's true for multiple reasons. One of them is that, we surveyed our community in 2016, and about 82 to 83% of those surveyed said to repeal the ban. Okay, so that's number one. Our community has spoken to us. And then the data collected since then shows us that 24% of our total budget for animal services is spent on breed-specific services. And so we only have $1,028,000 in our budget for animal services. And so that bothers me. I would like to see that money spent on dangerous dogs and eliminating the animals that are dangerous, and have the folks that own these animals go in front of the judge and be dealt with that way, instead of having folks going after animals that only look a certain way. Now, am I saying that I don't believe that certain animals are dangerous and that they have been raised to be certain ways? No, I'm not saying that. I myself have been attacked by several types of dogs. And I have the scars to prove it, but we are not showing those tonight, okay? But what I'm telling you is it's very scary. It's a very scary thing. And my heart goes out. I can't imagine what it would be like to lose a loved one to an attack of any type. So I understand that. I just wish that the ban that was put in 1990 actually had accomplished something, and it doesn't seem to have. Anyway, so we are also losing a lot of grant money, OPM, other people's money, because we have the ban, and we could get a lot more money into our community to help out. We have a $30,000 grant sitting out there waiting to help us get someone put in the animal shelter to help us move animals through, but they will not give it to us because of the ban. And I know there's a lot of other money out there. Our folks who are doing all the volunteering, Pet Project folks, and a lot of the other folks know of plenty of different sources of money to help us take care of our community. And as I understand it, I just found out from Jennifer last week, or the week before, can't remember, time flies around here, that for the first time in I don't know how many years, we actually had an empty cat cage. What are the chances? And you guys go, what? What do you mean? How important is that? Well, I'll tell you how important it is. It means that our animal control people and all of these volunteers have been working yeoman's job to take care of these problems. And they are addressing a lot of them, but we are being thwarted by moving into dealing with exact actions by animals, by looking at their creed, their race, their appearance. So we're profiling animals, okay? And I have a problem with profiling. Okay, that's an issue for me. When I was growing up, there was plenty of profiling going on in the 50s and the 60s. And I'm telling you, it sucks. And I know I'm speaking to folks who understand, who were profiled. And nobody wants to be profiled. So folks who have these animals, they're being profiled too as being bad people. And I'm not sure that's fair to them either. Now, going on about this, as I understand it, I heard a few amounts of money thrown around that the KC Pet Project and the HELP program has done. But when they spoke the other night, I found out that when you add up all the time spent and all the money, that these two organizations have actually done $1 million worth of work for our community. Okay? That is an outside group coming in and helping take care of us. Now, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is almost as much as what our budget is for animal services. Now, I'm not trying to shame my fellow commissioners and saying like, we need tons of more money. Well, yes, we do, but we have a limited amount of money to put out there. And if we can have more help from folks who care about help us take care of our community and the safety of our community, I don't want to run them away. I would like to have them with open arms, be part of our community, and be able to help us. After saying all that, I would like to ask Jennifer Stewart, who's head of our animal services, a few questions, if you don't mind. And I know you didn't opt to be here, but we need you for data, okay?
Okay.
So, how many animals, in percentage-wise or numbers, however you want to represent it, are we dealing with on pit bull lookalikes or pit bulls versus regular, just any other dog?
Do you mean how many are in the shelter currently? Would that work?
Yeah, that would work.
So I did an inventory before I came here tonight, and currently we have 35% are pit bulls or pit bull or predominantly pit bull mixes.
Okay. And is that the average amount through the year, or do you have any idea? Do you know what it ran in 2018?
It varies anywhere from 25% to 35% generally.
Okay. And so then, talking about it costing us around 24% of our budget dealing with these dogs. Now, what's the average stay between the two areas?
A pit bull's average stay in 2018 was 71 days. Non-banned breed was approximately 50 days.
Okay. So we've got an extra few days, needless to say, that we have to take care of these animals. So that's costing more. Plus, that fills up our animal shelter, which, because we cannot move these animals on within our community, the people are not going to come back and get their dog because, well, they're not supposed to have the dog in this county. So that dog is left out there hanging. And so then we have to find homes for these dogs. So that fills up our shelter instead of us just giving us the opportunity to pick up dangerous dogs that we get calls on.
Correct.
Because it gets filled up. Okay, so I I'm not sharing any name of any officers. Nope, I'm not gonna do that. But what I am gonna tell you is that I have heard from some of the police officers that they're pretty upset with the fact that we are filled up with animals that didn't necessarily do anything, but that we can't, so they can't get us to come pick up animals we know are doing something. That they're going out and killing cats and all that kind of stuff, and it takes them weeks. And I think we had a good outturn on one of those. People actually surrendered their animals that were killing cats, but it took weeks.
Months.
How long?
Months.
Okay, to get the people to
To be
find them.
transparent, sorry to interrupt, but
Go ahead.
it did take a while. It was the whole neighborhood was trying to help us catch 2 particular dogs that did a lot of damage.
And, okay. And so I appreciate that work, but that just goes to show you what kind of time and effort it takes to keep our community safe. And we need to have your folks available. And so while I'm up here testifying for you, if I understand it correctly, a town this size should have 20 officers. And we have how many right now?
We're hiring 3, so we'll have 7.
Wow, okay, well, that's better than what we had when we started this venture, but that means we're woefully negligent of providing the number of people we need. Okay, I want people out there to understand what kind of a fight this is. This is a fight to keep our community safe within the money that we have and being able to raise more money, to take care of it. How many of those pit bulls were picked up for bites?
Last year,
Mm-hmm.
in 2018, there were 60 dogs picked up for bites. 12 of them were bully breeds.
Okay.
So that's 48 that were not. To date, this was actually May 15th, so I'm about 2 weeks off. We had 20 bites in 2019. 4 of them were bully breeds.
Okay.
16 were not.
Okay. All right. So they're a smaller percentage. It doesn't make it good, whatever. All of those dogs are bad dogs. And I'm sure they'll have to go through their dangerous dog procedure to see what happens with them. But I appreciate that information. Is there anything else that you want to tell me about as far, and I know that all I need from you is facts. So what facts have I forgotten to ask about as it affects us in working efficiently and effectively?
I think the most important thing for us is the length of stay being so long, and it takes so long to find a home for a pit bull type dog, that there are people in the community that want to either get their dog back or adopt or even foster. We have a great relationship with a couple of different rescue groups who provide fostering before someone can adopt an animal or choose to. And all of those people are in different counties and cities. They are helping ease that burden, but there are people in this county or city that would be more than welcome or more than willing to take a dog that is not currently allowed.
I know what I forgot to ask you.
Okay.
How could we spend some of that money that we save by not chasing our tails literally? Where could we spend some of that money for that would help us get this stuff under control?
Just the length of stay, or?
No, well, for instance, what can we do with the dogs that come in that we pick up? How can we spend money to keep track of them, to move things along? So could we, so we could pay for more spay and neutering, we could, let's see, I know, we could chip every critter that came in the door.
Yes.
Because how much would it cost us to chip every critter that came in the door?
Approximately $18,000, maybe $20,000, and that also allows us to track recurring visitors. If one officer picks up a dog one month and a different officer picks up the dog the next month, we may not know it's the same dog. it's usually our kennel coordinator who's like, hey, that dog's been here before, and we've realized that it's been a second or third pickup. We can use funding for an adoption coordinator or volunteer coordinator that can help us feature those animals and reach out to different potential adopters and fosters. And with the staffing or lack thereof right now, I'm responsible for all of that in addition to all my other duties. So I just don't have the time to work on finding adopters or fosters as much as we really need at the shelter.
So, okay, so unless any of the other commissioners have any questions for you, I just want to make a list of comments here, and it's going to be pretty quick.
Okay.
Okay, so I started thinking about the issues around the fear of what would happen if we repealed this ban, because there are fears, and rightfully so, because fear comes out of a lot of places, and so we all are afraid of something. So I want to address this. This deals with the different communities around us that repealed the ban on pit bulls or any kind of breed-specific law. So Bonner Springs repealed in 2014, and there's been no increase in bites overall by pit bull type breeds since the ban was repealed. And also, they also stated that the repeal has saved time and resources for the city. And that was directly from the Bonner Springs people. Edwardsville repealed in 2008. No increase in bites overall by pit bull type breeds since the ban was repealed. Lansing in 2015, no increase, same thing. Tonganoxie repealed in 2016. There's been no increase since that's been repealed. Shawnee in 2018, that's only been a year's worth, and they haven't had anything increase. Roland Park repealed in 2015, and there's been no increase in bites overall or by pit bull type breeds since the ban was repealed. I felt it was necessary to share that information with everybody because of fear of the unknown and fear that our families are going to be hurt, and that's a very valid fear. But I had to know for myself what the heck is going on around us and what the result of their repeal has done. And so I wanted to share that with you. Other than that, thank you. I appreciate everybody indulging me with my 2 cents, or that's probably 10 cents worth. But I've been working on this for a long time. You're so bad. 4 quarters worth. Anyway, I've been working on this for a long time, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody that has been doing their due diligence on trying to figure out what we can do and how we can help animal services make our community safer, because that is one of our big complaints that we get from our folks in this city, is not feeling safe because of animals running amok. Okay, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend?
Just for clarity, it was my recollection that when we did the survey that Commissioner Philbrook mentioned, in District 1, when that question was posed about pit bulls, it was in the high 30s, maybe 40s, with regard to repealing the ban. So the overwhelming numbers in District 1 did not support that. The other thing is, I know that we may be missing out on money. There may be people who want to come in and give us money, but I still caution you, I don't think we need to go for that, the 30 pieces of silver, so to speak, because what's at issue is more than just how much money we can get. As I said earlier, according to this institute and State Farm Insurance, the average cost of a dog bite is more than what we're talking about bringing in. I agree we have to do something to try to keep our people safe and lessen your burden, but I don't think it's appropriate to shift that burden to the public, which is what I think it would happen if the ban was lifted. Thank you.
Commissioner Burrows?
Well, thank you. And I too want to echo the appreciation for the public come forward and expressing their issues. There's been Ms. Jennifer, you may sit down.
Okay,
I don't mean to keep you at the podium. There's been much discussion about the repeal of the breed-specific legislation or ordinance. I know that ordinance was significant when it was implemented. And to the McConnell family, it's quite unfortunate. And you have my utmost respect for how you've handled yourself in this discussion this evening. This is an emotional issue that's going to divide the community no matter which way the vote comes down on this particular issue. But I'm one that doesn't believe that we rescind an ordinance for noncompliance or for limited service or resources to ensure we comply with the ordinance. I just don't believe that is the reason to do away with an ordinance. And that's what I'm hearing in some of the discussion this evening. Now, we've heard about the statistics that come from other communities. What we haven't heard is how much resources or additional resources were put into those communities to address that concern. We've heard the challenges that we face fiscally as a community. I would have a higher comfort level in assuring that any vicious animal, let alone a dangerous animal, was taken off the streets. And it's no secret that I've advocated for additional public facilities in a first-class community. We deserve first-class facilities. You deserve first-class service from a responsive government. If we're not fulfilling that obligation, that's on us, but we need your help. I do not believe that rescinding this ordinance with the limited amount of information that has come forward is a significant reason to rescind the ordinance. I'm going to stand with those that have been victimized by vicious animals, not just bully breeds, but by vicious animals. I'm going to stand with them this evening for public safety reasons, and I do hope that as we move forward throughout our budget process, we find the additional dollars necessary and the opportunity to hire those that are committed to helping our animal-loving community.
Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Commissioner Kane said when we first began this discussion, this is a very hard decision to make. And as I was looking for guidance, I looked to the American Veterinary Medical Association. That is the professional association that serves those men and women who choose to make it their life's work to care for the various animals that we all keep in our homes and in our communities. And the American Veterinary Medical Association says that while breed-specific legislation may look good on the surface, it is not a reliable or effective solution for dog bite prevention. The AVMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association, is opposed to breed-specific legislation. I have taken my cue from them.
Thank you. Commissioner Kane?
Well, we just pulled up 83% of the people in District 5 wanted the ban repealed. So I think that's important too. And when we talk about when we did the survey, I didn't realize it was that high. So 83% of the District 5 says they don't want the ban.
Commissioner Bynum?
Just to clarify, District 1, that particular survey is broken out by district. District 1 was also 83% in favor of repeal, and every district, 7 out of 7, that included that question were 83% or higher. And I just went back to double check it because I had looked at it a month or so ago. Thank you.
All right, I see that there are no further comments or questions from the commission, so I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve this particular motion, this particular activity, which is to get rid of the BSL ban.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. No. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
No.
Townsend.
No.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Murguia.
Aye.
The vote is 6-3. Motion carries.
I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening, and I can assure you that our administration, our staff, and this commission will continue to look at this, to continue to explore the data and the experience, because public safety is of the utmost concern and is our responsibility. So I want to thank you all for coming and telling us your stories. That concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you.